The night was quiet, the kind of silence that made every sound feel heavy. The wind carried the faint hum of tires on the distant highway, and the moon hung low, pale against the cold November sky. Daniel drove his old pickup truck down the winding road that led back to his small house at the edge of town. The heater had stopped working weeks ago, so his breath fogged up the windshield as he rubbed his hands together to stay warm. In the back seat, his 8-year-old son, Jake, slept curled up beneath a faded blanket, his small chest rising and falling softly. Daniel glanced at him, exhaustion written across his face. Another double shift at the warehouse, another day of just barely making it. The night had been long, but the paycheck would cover groceries and rent for another week. He sighed, grateful for small victories. As the truck's headlights cut through a patch of fog ahead, something flickered on the side of the road, a pale shape half hidden in the grass. At first, Daniel thought it was an animal. But then he saw an arm. His heart jolted. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the wet asphalt. The truck came to a stop, and for a second, all he heard was his own heartbeat. He opened the door and stepped into the cold. The wind bit at his skin as he ran toward the shape. When his flashlight beam landed on her face, his breath caught. It was a woman, young, maybe in her early 30s, covered in dirt and bruises. Her hair clung to her face, and there was blood on her temple. Her clothes were torn, soaked from the rain earlier that night. For a moment, Daniel just stared, frozen between fear and instinct. Then he dropped to his knees. "Hey, can you hear me?" he called out, his voice trembling. The woman's eyelids fluttered weakly, a soft groan escaping her lips. She was alive. Daniel looked back at his truck. Jake was still asleep. He couldn't just leave her there. Without another thought, he pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her trembling body. She felt weightless in his arms as he lifted her, careful not to hurt her more. He placed her gently on the truck's back seat, next to his son. Jake stirred for a moment but didn't wake. Daniel shut the door, ran around to the driver's side, and sped toward the nearest hospital. The drive felt endless. The woman's shallow breathing filled the small space. Her fingers twitched, and at one point, she whispered something, too faint for him to catch. Daniel's knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. Whoever she was, she needed help fast. When he finally reached the emergency room, he carried her inside and shouted for help. Nurses rushed over, and within seconds, they had her on a stretcher. Daniel tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "Sir, please wait here. We'll take care of her." He nodded, still catching his breath. He sat in the waiting room, his hands shaking, the old clock on the wall ticking far too slowly. Jake eventually woke, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, what happened?" Daniel forced a smile. "We helped someone who was hurt, buddy. She's gonna be okay." Hours passed. A doctor finally approached, her expression serious but calm. "You found her just in time," she said. "She's stable now, but there's significant spinal trauma. We're running more tests, but it looks like she might be partially paralyzed." Daniel swallowed hard. "Will she recover?" "It's too early to say," the doctor replied gently. "She's very lucky you stopped when you did." When the police arrived to take his statement, Daniel explained everything. They told him she had no ID, no phone, nothing. She was a Jane Doe for now. The officers thanked him and left. But Daniel couldn't shake the image of her lying in the grass, broken and cold. Something inside him refused to walk away. The next day, after dropping Jake at school, he went back to the hospital. The woman was awake, staring at the ceiling when he entered. Her eyes were gray, haunted but alive. "You're the man who found me," she said softly. He nodded. "Yeah, you were lying by the road. I couldn't just leave you there." Her lips trembled. "Thank you. I don't remember much. I was driving somewhere. Then, lights, shouting, and nothing." "You don't remember your name?" She shook her head. "No, everything's just gone." Daniel sat quietly, unsure what to say. She looked fragile, like a bird with a broken wing. "The doctor said you'll need time to heal," he finally said. "If you need anything at all, just tell me." Her eyes softened. "Why would you help a stranger like me?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing." Days turned into weeks. She began to remember fragments. voices, music, a small dog's bark, but never her name. Daniel visited often, bringing flowers or homemade soup. He fixed the broken heater in her hospital room with his own tools, earning an amused smile from the nurses. Jake began coming too, telling her about school and showing her his drawings. Slowly, warmth returned to her life. The doctors confirmed the worst: she would never walk again. The news hit her like a storm. That night, Daniel found her crying. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why did you save me if this is what I have left?" He sat beside her, his eyes steady. "Because life doesn't end just because it changes." She stared at him for a long moment, then reached for his hand. "You really believe that?" "I have to," he said. "For my son. For people like you. For myself." Months passed. She moved into a small rehab center. Daniel kept visiting, fixing things, bringing books, sitting quietly when words weren't needed. One evening, she finally remembered her name, Emily Carter. The name hit Daniel like thunder. He froze. Emily Carter. He knew that name. He went home and searched online. His hands trembled as he read headline after headline. Emily Carter, the CEO of Carter Technologies, a major software company. Missing for months after a carjacking incident. Presumed dead. The woman lying broken in that hospital bed wasn't just anyone. She was one of the richest women in the country. He didn't tell her that night. He couldn't. To her, he wasn't just some man who rescued her. He was the person who treated her like she still mattered when the world had forgotten her. And somehow, that felt sacred. When he finally told her the truth, she was silent for a long time. "So that's who I was," she said softly. "I thought I was nobody." Daniel smiled. "You're somebody now, not because of what you had, but because of who you are." Tears filled her eyes. "You could have used me. You could have told the world and taken a reward." He shrugged. "Didn't seem right." She reached out, holding his hand. "Then let me do something right for you." In the months that followed, Emily began to rebuild her life, with Daniel and Jake by her side. She couldn't walk, but she learned to move forward in new ways. She sold her company shares and started a foundation for accident victims and single parents struggling like Daniel once did. She hired him as her project director, saying he was the only man she trusted to lead it with heart. Years later, at a charity event, Emily wheeled onto the stage, her voice steady as she told their story, not of wealth or loss, but of the night a tired single father chose compassion over comfort. The audience listened in silence, many with tears in their eyes. After the applause faded, she looked at Daniel in the crowd and smiled. "He didn't just save my life," she said. "He gave it meaning again." And, somewhere in that moment, between brokenness and healing, between darkness and light, two souls, both once lost, found home in each other's kindness. Because sometimes, the greatest miracles begin on an empty road, with a single act of love.